Okay, so it looks like everybody's here, so we're gonna begin the class. Just to get ready here, we're going to run an audio and video setup. You'll need to do this for each session. So you'll want to click on the purplish tab in the lower right-hand corner and open the Collaborate panel. And then you'll want to click on My Settings. It's a wheel icon in the lower left-hand corner. You'll want to set up your camera and your microphone. You'll just want to check the desired audio device and verify the levels are working. Click Yes, it's working. You want to do the same thing for your video device. Select your video device in the drop down and click Yes, it's working if the video is working properly. If you do get kicked out, you will need to select to keep the settings when you re-enter the session. So you also want to set up your panels in Blackboard Ultra. So you want to expand the attendee panel, which looks like a people icon in the lower left-hand corner, and drag it to the left. And then you want to click on the chat balloon in the lower left-hand corner to open the chat discussion. So to get ready to learn here, let's go ahead and put your phones on silent, put up a do not disturb sign, and shut the door. And we're going to do a quality check to make sure that Blackboard Ultra is recording and set up correctly. So you should see in the upper left-hand corner that there is a black and red camcorder icon. If you see that, can you raise your hand? Thank you. Looks like both of you saw it, so you can go ahead and lower your hand. And if you're joining us virtually, you'll want to check for that also. And then do you guys see the words quality check at the top of the PowerPoint slides? If you can see that, can you raise your hands? Okay, thanks. Looks like everyone can see that. And for virtual listeners, you'll want to look for that also. And then let's check and see if you can hear me. If you guys can hear me, can you raise your hands? If you cannot hear me, you'll want to check your My Settings tab and adjust your microphone volume. Okay, it looks like everyone can hear me. And virtual listeners, you'll also want to check that. Okay, so our learning objectives for today are from Chapter 4 of Thinking Collaboratively. And the first learning objective is after this web conference, students will be able to describe blended learning. And the second learning objective is that after this web conference, students will be able to evaluate use of mass open online courses and determine their effectiveness. So for an icebreaker, I'm going to have you guys answer this question and raise your hand and then use the talk tools, which are located in the center of the screen there. Here's an example. And for virtual listeners, you'll want to answer this question in your missed class summary. So the question is, have you ever taken a blended learning course? What were some of the benefits of this course and what were some of the drawbacks? Does anybody want to share? Okay, April, go ahead. I can't hear you, April. Do you want to check your microphone settings? Oh, it looks like April's reconnecting. Does anybody else want to share? Oh, April's back with us. April, did you want to share your experience? Evan, would you like to try and share and see if we can hear you?
Yeah, I've definitely had a blended learning course before, and I liked it personally just because it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Gives you a chance to work with people, but also do a lot online and with technology. So I feel like it lets you kind of expand on the traditional experience.
Thanks for sharing, Evan. You could go ahead and lower your hand. Yeah, I agree. Blended learning is definitely, it says it in the name, it's blending both of those worlds, the face-to-face and online learning, and adding both those components can be very beneficial for the students' learning experience. April, did you want to share, or were you able to get your audio to work?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry. Yeah, just similar to Evan, I have had a blended learning class, and some of the benefits were just being able to ask the instructor questions, when you were in person, and so I found that the most helpful instead of having to email and then wait for a response.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. Blended learning can also help with creating that learning communities, collaborative learning, not only with just your professor, but also with your peers. So if you guys want to go ahead and lower your hands, we'll move on. So blended learning, it combines online learning with in-person learning, and it's used to enhance learning and create learning communities. And this can be accomplished through various different ways. It can be where you maybe meet one class in person, and then the next session is online, and then maybe the third session is in person, and just keeps going like that. Or it could be that certain items that are being taught in the class are done online, and certain items are being done in person. It could be that you have maybe lecture in person, and then maybe you have collaborative assignments online, or it could mean that your lectures from in person are supplemented with online lectures or assignments. You could also utilize blended learning to take online assessments to save class time for larger courses. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with blended learning. So the next thing that I'm going to have you guys do here is do a textual activity. So I want you to reflect on the previous explanation of blended learning and what you guys shared about your blended learning experiences, and then come up with 2 examples of how blended learning can be accomplished in the classroom, and use the text tool to add that to the slide. So the text tool is the little T icon in the upper left-hand portion of the screen. And for virtual students, I will have you add your examples to the Missed Class Summary. So if you guys want to use your text tool there and just pick a color and text on the slide itself some examples of how you can use blended learning. If you guys are having any trouble with the tools, the text tool as an alternative, you could type it into the chat box. If you're having any trouble, raise your hand and let me know. Are you guys able to, oh, I see someone coming through here. Online class for distance learning, one class in person. Okay, does anybody else? Oh, here we go. Clickers and text in answers. That's good. Yeah, clickers can be used both in the classroom to give that some of that for large classes, to give some of that blended experience. Take assessments or projects in class. So yeah, you could take assessments either online or in class, or you could do the same thing with projects. Okay, thanks for those examples, and we'll move on here. So rethinking education. So blended learning is basically a way of rethinking the learning experience and changing how it's accomplished. However, there is no one way to design a blended online course, blended learning course. So there are various different ways to accomplish it. The main thing is to make sure that it is actually enhancing the learning experience. So on the screen here, I've got some examples of things that could have been added to a blended learning course. And I want you to take a look at them and read them, and then select the blended learning items that enhance the learning experience. And do that using the shape tools. So in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, there's the shape tools, and I've got it selected there. So you can drop down and you can change it to square, circle, whatever, and select different colors. So if you guys want to do that, and then also for virtual listeners, please list your answers in your missed class summary. So it looks like we've got replace lectures with online collaborative group assignments and online support from instructors and peers. Yeah, so those are two things that enhance the learning experience, whereas just making something optional as far as like a discussion or assignment really doesn't help, because if it's optional, it's probably not going to be done across the board. And also duplicating recordings of previous lectures or future lectures that are going to be duplicates are not helpful either. So moving on to Mass Open Online Courses, MOOC. So these are not like blended learning courses where they have the mixture of both in-person or face-to-face and online activities and interaction. These really just strictly utilize the internet, and they're really meant to offer students just like content and connection. So they are connecting them a lot of times with prestigious instructors. However, there's not a lot of opportunity for interaction. The interaction that you may have the ability to do is with your peers, but not the instructor. And since it's an optional thing, a lot of times those aren't utilized. So the main component is the content. You're getting content from a prestigious instructor, and they often are free. So that is one of the draws to them, is that they're free and open to the masses. So I'm going to have you actually open the chat box, and I'm going to send you a link here to a video about Mass Open online courses. So if you want to take a few minutes to watch the video and then raise your hand when you're done. And if you're joining us virtually, to go ahead and watch the video, and then it's about 2 minutes and 41 seconds. And when you're done, we'll move on. Okay, so it looks like everyone's done watching the video, so you can go ahead and lower your hands. So we'll move on here. So the next thing I'm going to have you do is an evaluating activity. So evaluate what you have learned about massive open online courses, and you decide if they are effective or not, and why or why not. So answer this question using the chat tool. So you'll open your chat with a little bubble in the lower right-hand corner there. And for virtual students, you'll want to answer this question in your missed class summary. So just type in and tell me what you think about the MOOCs. Are they effective? Why or why not? So it looks like both April and Evan are typing in the chat. So Evan says they're not effective. There's not enough interaction. I agree there's not enough interaction, and that's one of the big drawbacks of them. And April says not by traditional standards because of high dropout rate. Yeah, so there is a very high dropout rate of the courses. So they're really not effective for like regular courses. You're right. So we'll move on here to talk about the implications in higher education. So many universities offer both blended learning courses and MOOCs. Believe it or not, even Harvard has an MOOC. And higher education has seen benefits from both blended learning courses and even MOOCs. The massive open online courses can be used for like faculty development, for example, and that is a beneficial use for those. And sometimes the free mass open online courses that are offered may draw in prospective students to take a look at those to decide if they're interested in taking courses at your university. Especially for a university like Harvard, that's very expensive. These free courses do draw a lot of attention. And as far as blending learning courses go, they are just everywhere in higher education. So speaking of blended learning courses, so the benefits of them, higher education is basically on the forefront of incorporating these. And blending learning is being embedded in all class sizes. So it can benefit large classes, small classes, undergraduate, graduate courses. For the large classes, it can be used to help with interaction, so like those clickers, or like doing interactive group work online. And then for the smaller size courses, it can be used to just like supplement. You can do some of the like testing or activities online. A lot of courses are using supplemental materials from like publishers of textbooks, for example, that the faculty members can utilize and structure in their picking and choosing what they are wanting to share with the students. So there's a lot of ways that blended learning is being incorporated into higher education, and there are a lot of benefits. And then moving on to the benefits of mass open online courses. So I talked a bit about this already, that even higher education is even benefiting from the MOOCs. So like I said, for faculty development, drawing in new students. And even though these courses are free, because there's not a lot of interaction, they don't often cost a lot to set up. And they can just keep being utilized over and over again, but they may draw in new students. And so that may bring in additional revenue from tuition from new students that tried one of these and decided to take a full-blown course. And faculty development can benefit from this, because once it's set up, it can be used by all faculty. You don't have to take the time to utilize funds or space or schedule with everyone. They can just go online and do these online courses to further their development. So the next thing we're going to have you guys do is a polling activity. So the polling activity, the question here is, do you think that the massive open online courses are as beneficial and effective as blended online courses in the higher education setting? So I've got three answers here to choose from. So the first one is answer number 1 would be yes, 2 no, 3 would be not sure. So and then if you're a virtual student, you can answer this question in your missed class summary. So it looks like everyone has answered here, and both were no. And I agree. I don't think it's as beneficial or effective compared to blended learning. So we'll close the poll here and move on. So in summary, blended learning is the future of learning, and not only in higher education, but even in K through 12 schools, with like things like smart boards and digital learning for students that maybe want homeschooling and these type of things. So there's blended learning in those instances as well. And if it's done right, blending learning, it can improve the learning experience for students, and it can build learning communities, especially with interaction with peers and more access to the faculty members. And so I'm going to have you do a learning assessment of the two learning tools that you learned about today. Which one is more effective in improving learning and collaboration? So to do this, I'd like for you to use your pointer to select the right answer. The pointer is in the upper left-hand corner of this screen. And so just hover over the answer that you believe. So it looks like we've got at least one here pointing on blended learning. For virtual students, please go ahead and answer this question in your missed class summary. So we'll move on here. So that's basically it for today. I just want to have you guys give me an emoticon in the chat box to let me know how you're feeling about today's class. And let me know if you have any questions. You can either raise your hand and use the talk tools, or you can type questions in the chat box. If you don't have any questions, I guess maybe give me a thumbs up emoticon in your chat box. And for virtual students, just add your answers or questions in your missed class summary. So it looks like we've got a thumbs up from both Evan and April, and they're both happy about the class today. So next class, I just want to thank you for watching this web conference, and then we will have another web conference on Saturday, February 16th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and that will be live, and if you miss that, you will want to do a missed class summary as well. And our references are for the book Thinking Collaboratively, Learning in a Community of Inquiry. And I just want to thank everybody for attending and have a good day. Thanks. Bye.